Welcome to the Practical Farm Certifications Training. This training program is brought to you by the LSU AgCenter and Louisiana SARE Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education. Today we'll be discussing food safety certifications. And with us we have Allison Dumas of Louisiana Department of Ag and Forestry, Audrey Carrier of Louisiana Department of Ag and Forestry, James Deshotel of Deshotel Farms and James Deshotel Produce, Achyut Adhikari with the LSU AgCenter, Chelsea Trish with the Southern University Ag Center, Nolan Maturan with Guidry's Fresh Cuts, and Dr. Pam Hodson with Louisiana Sea Grant and LSU Ag Center. So let's get started with our presentation for today. So this is the first training video in our series covering food safety. Today we'll be covering FSMA, GAP, PSA, and SQF. We'll tell you what all of those acronyms mean as we go through the training. Next up, we'll have Audrey Carrier. I'll ask Audrey to introduce herself and her role. Up, we have Allison Dumas with LDAF. Allison, if you would please introduce yourself, your role, and your organization.
Hi, I'm Allison Dumas. I'm a program manager with the Louisiana Department of Agriculture and Forestry, and I oversee the FSMA Produce Safety Program. This is a regulatory program for produce safety, and it's a part of the Food Safety Modernization Act.
Great. So can you tell us a little bit more about the FSMA certification, the name of it, and what does it mean?
Yeah, so the Food Safety Modernization Act, the produce safety rule is actually the longer name of it is the standards for the growing, harvesting, packing, and holding of produce for human consumption. But you're rarely gonna hear anybody use that title. They're typically gonna call it the produce safety rule. This is the first time that there have been regulatory standards for the produce growing community in the United States. And again, there are standards related to the growing, harvesting, packing, and holding activities that a farm might do. There are standards related to employee health, hygiene, and training, the use of biological soil amendments of animal origin, agricultural water quality. Not all water used on a farm is considered agricultural water. So, there might be questions you might have about related to what water is considered agricultural water. There's also standards related to the condition, cleaning, and sanitizing of equipment, buildings, and tools on a farm, as well as the presence of domesticated and wild animals on the farm. Not every produce grower is going to have to comply with the produce safety rule, and there are several exemptions or exclusions related to the produce safety rule. And we have some resources that we can provide you to help you understand if you have to comply with the produce safety rule.
Great, and we'll be going a little bit more deeply into who is exempt and who has to comply later. So all of those things you just listed fall under FSMA. That is a lot to cover.
It is.
Okay, so is there a law associated with this certification?
Yes, the Food Safety Modernization Act was a law that was signed back in 2011 by President Obama, and it was really the first overhaul of the food safety laws in the country in almost 80 years. And as a result of that law, there were 7 rules created that covered virtually every aspect of the food safety system here in the US. And those rules also apply to foreign suppliers that are importing foods and produce into the US as well. So they have to comply with those laws as well. As far as who is responsible for overseeing that program, the Louisiana Department of Agriculture and Forestry is responsible for overseeing the implementation of the produce safety rule here in Louisiana. Back in 2016, we received a grant from the FDA to develop a program and to oversee that program here in the state. So we are the regulators for that program. And there's a component for education and outreach for farmers related to the produce safety rule because this is brand new for produce farmers, and FDA wanted to make sure that they had the necessary education to help them be compliant with the produce safety rule. And again, this is a mandatory program. If you fall under the requirements of the produce safety rule, you would have to be compliant with the law and make sure that you're following all the standards set in that law.
Great. So the auditing agency is also the LDAF. So are you the auditor? Are there multiple people that audit for FSMA?
Well, and there's a distinction between audits and inspection. This would be considered an inspection. So it may be me that comes out. I'm the program manager, but I can come out and do an inspection. But we also have 2 inspectors on staff that would, depending on need, either all 3 of us could be there or just one of us. It depends on farm size and activities as to who needs to be there and what they might be doing on the farm.
Yeah. And so what's the difference there between audit and inspection? Is one more formal and the other is more like a checkup?
Well, an audit really, it breaks down between voluntary and regulatory, mandatory. So an inspection would kind of fall under that mandatory designation, where an audit would be more of a voluntary checkup. That's, if you wanted to call it that.
Okay, that makes sense. So if somebody wanted to get certified, who should they get in touch with?
So they can reach out to me here at LDAF, either through email or phone. And I'd also definitely suggest people visit our website. It's our web page. We have a special domain name there to help direct people to it. It's laproducesafety.com. And again, it's a part of the LDAF website, and we have a variety of different resources from FDA, the Produce Safety Alliance, which has put out a lot of great educational material related to the produce safety rule. We also have educational resources from the LSU AgCenter and Southern University as well. They are our educational and outreach partners here in the state of Louisiana, helping us make sure that farmers understand their responsibilities under this law.
Great. So although you guys manage the program, there's still help at the Ag Center to help people understand more and get started. And we'll cover more of that later in the presentation with Dr. Achyut and Chelsea talking about programs that they offer.
Yes, they are our partners in the education side of that grant that I talked about earlier. And so they're routinely offering training programs around the state. Unfortunately, at this time with the COVID-19 pandemic, we aren't able to offer anything in person, but hopefully, in the next few months, we will be able to have those trainings reconvene and be able to find a way to have those trainings so people can do what they need to do in regards to training.
Great. So it looks like that website's going to be a really good source for more information on getting started.
We try to keep it updated, and anything new, especially that comes out from FDA, any guidance, we try to keep that updated so people have the most current information regarding the produce safety rule.
So we touched on it for just a second earlier, but who is covered under this certification? Like who has to be certified, who is eligible, who is exempt, can't get certified? Can you give us some details on that?
So there's a lot that I could talk about when it comes to exemptions and exclusions. The easiest way to say that is anyone that is growing produce that is typically consumed raw may possibly have to comply with the produce safety rule. So really the first step is to think about what you're growing. Are they, and there's a very specific list in the produce safety rule of commodities that FDA considers not typically consumed raw. So if they're on that list, they are not considered a covered commodity under the produce safety rule. But if they're not on that list, they may be considered a covered commodity, and you may have to follow the produce safety rule. The other part of that is anyone that is selling on average less than $25,000 of produce, and that's over a rolling 3-year period, adjusted for inflation. So we're in 2020 now, so you would look at your sales for 2017, 2018, and 2019, average those 3 years together, and if the average of those 3 years is less than $25,000, again, adjusted for inflation. So it's roughly about 27,000 adjusted for inflation. If it's less than that, then they would be considered excluded from having to comply with the produce safety rule. There's also a couple of exemptions. If, let's say, for example, you grew tomatoes and a portion of your sales went to the fresh market, but another portion went to a processor to be turned into tomato sauce. The portion that goes for processing would fall under what's called a processing exemption. So you wouldn't have to follow all of the parts of the produce safety rule. There's some assurances that you would have to have from the processor to ensure that the produce was handled in a manner that didn't contribute to contamination, but otherwise you wouldn't have to comply with all the parts of the produce safety rule. And then there's another that you may be eligible for, which is called a qualified exemption. And that's where you take a look at total food sales. So that includes human foods that you might sell, animal foods, that includes your produce sales. And if you are selling less than $500,000, again, over a rolling 3-year period on average, and it's also adjusted for inflation, and then more than half of your sales are to what they call qualified end users, which would be the direct consumer. So if you're selling at the farmer's market and you're selling directly to the consumer, or you're selling to a restaurant or retail food establishment that's either in your state or 275 miles from your farm location, you may be eligible for a qualified exemption. And it's a little bit nuanced, and every situation is going to be different. So if you have questions about that, I definitely suggest reaching out to us at LDAF and talking to us and seeing if you may be eligible for that exemption. Because if you are, again, you wouldn't have to follow all of the components of the produce safety rule. There's just some very simple things you'd have to follow, and your responsibilities would end there.
So it seems like the short answer for all of this is
you may have to
be. You could be exempt. You might be, depending on what you sell, how much of it you sell, and to who. You know, which way, what's the final product there? Are you selling whole tomatoes, or are you selling, tomato sauce?
Yeah, it's not an easy answer, just because every farm is different, their markets are different. And, the easiest way to find out if you have to comply with the produce safety rule is, again, there's a flow chart that we're going to provide you, I think, in the resources with this. And you can go through that flow chart, and it will walk you through whether you may or may not be eligible for one of those exemptions, or you do have to comply with the produce safety rule. But also, if you have questions after going through that flow chart, definitely reach out to us and let's talk about your setup and see, where you fall under the produce safety rule. So we don't want to cause anyone any undue stress thinking that they have to comply when they may not have to comply with the produce safety rule.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little intimidating, I would say, because it is a law. You do have to comply, but you might not, you might be exempt for it. So definitely worth looking into. You definitely should, seeing as it is a federal law.
Yeah.
So how much does it cost to get certified?
There are no fees associated. We will not collect any fees from you to participate in this program, because if you have to comply, you have to comply. It is a law. So that's a pretty straightforward answer.
So this program is free, essentially. So some of the other certifications will cover, you have to pay a certain amount per hour for the auditor. Is that the same case here at all?
That is not. We, again, we are going to be on your farm. If you have to comply with the produce safety rule, regardless of how long we're on the farm, there is no cost collected from you for us being there on the farm. And the only cost associated with the produce safety rule would be a training cost. There is, again, that training program that a member of management on the farm would need to attend, but the cost to attend that is very low.
Okay.
Usually $20 to $25.
Right. So this seems really fair. If you have to get certified, they're not going to charge you an arm and a leg to get certified, because it is, a law. So how long does it last? You have to keep getting certified every year?
Yes. Well, as of right now, farm inspections are occurring approximately once a year.
Okay.
Depending on, inspectional load, it may increase, it may decrease. And again, it also depends on the activities and the commodities that each farm is growing. If you're growing a commodity that is considered more high risk, one that's been implicated in foodborne disease outbreaks around the country, that might be one that we need to come out and inspect. And again, we're under the direction of FDA. And so if they, and also again, we have to take into consideration, if there's an influx of foodborne disease outbreaks, do we need to go out and check and make sure everything's, going properly. So,
yeah.
but as of right now, once a year, typically.
Okay. So this is something that you would say expires every year, and you run out of time, or is it just a general?
Not necessarily expires. We would keep track of when we visit each farm, and would try to be back out there within a calendar year. It might be sooner than a calendar year. It might be a little bit longer. Again, depending on commodities, if we've seen, let's say they grow strawberries and they grow tomatoes, we might want to see those two different commodities, and they might be grown and harvested, at different times. And so just depending on what each farm is doing, we would want to, plan around what that farm is doing.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. So you want to see, you want to be able to inspect when some of these things are happening on the farm. So there's no point in inspecting for tomatoes in the middle of winter.
Yeah, and we try to stay in contact with the farms, and let them know, hey, we'd like to come out and do an inspection. We know you're growing this, or as of last year, these were the commodities that you were growing. Has anything changed? We tried to reevaluate the program on a yearly basis at least, and make sure that we're seeing the commodities that are being grown across the state, and covering those bases to make sure that we're keeping consumers safe here in Louisiana.
Great. So what's the process like of becoming certified, or I guess passing the inspection? Some of the other certifications that we'll cover include hefty amounts of paperwork that you have to keep track of, maybe for years before becoming certified. So what's it like becoming certified for FSMA?
It really, and again, the answer, it depends on the farm. Farms may already be doing everything they need to do to be compliant with FSMA. Again, these are the minimum standards that FDA has set for food safety on produce farms. So farms may already be doing much of what's required under the law. Sometimes there are needs for some capital investment on the farm to help them become compliant in certain areas. So that is something to take into consideration. Um, the first step I would say is that each farm needs to make sure that they send at least one member of management to that Produce Safety Alliance grower training or an equivalent training, to make sure that they know what the requirements are under the rule, and that they can then take that back and put that into motion on the farm. And again, those are offered through the LSU AgCenter and through Southern University. Not currently offering any in person, but hope to have that back up and running here in the next few months. And with the possibility of also moving to a virtual platform for those, if we need to. But there is some time involved in ensuring that practices are being done on the farm. There are some records that do have to be kept, but very few required records. And honestly, again, minimum standards. So it should be something that isn't overly burdensome to growers. But again, we're hoping to help educate growers here in the state. LSU and Southern both work on that. And we also have a process or program here in the state. It's called the On-Farm Readiness Review. And basically, it's a voluntary program. It's a free program for farms that have to comply with FSMA. We will come out and basically have a mock inspection on your farm prior to your first inspection and help you determine your readiness for that first inspection. So we definitely encourage growers to take us up on that. We would have representatives from LDAF, LSU, and Southern come out and help you prepare for that first inspection. So take us up on that and let us help you get ready and take some of that worry away from you when it comes to this new program that everybody's, still getting used to.
Yeah. So unlike the GAP certification, which we'll ask Audrey about, you are both the inspector who's given the final say, but also you can help ahead of time to say, here's the issues, let's get these fixed without really a penalty or anything.
Correct. Yeah. We can come out there and just really walk through the entire standard with you on your farm. And so it's tailored to what's happening on your farm, the commodities that you're growing, your practices, and we can make sure that you're prepared. And like I said, take some of that worry away from having to experience this first inspection under the rule.
Thank you. Thanks. Dr. Hodson, do you have any questions you'd like to ask Allison?
Yes, Allison. I have a question about if a farmer is eventually wanting to become GAP certified because they're starting to deal with some buyers that are saying, look, we require GAP. Is this program a good starting point for a farmer who wants to eventually get the GAP certification? Is it a prerequisite? I know it's voluntary. Well, it's a law, I should say, but it's a good place to start.
It's the minimum standard. So the FSMA standard is actually going to be a little bit below the standards that are set by GAP.
Right.
So, and not every farm is going to have to comply with FSMA, but I would definitely encourage all growers, regardless of whether they have to comply with FSMA or not, to attend those Produce Safety Alliance trainings.
Yeah.
Because again, you're learning some very basic good agricultural practices that you can put into place on your farm and really kind of help prepare you for that next step. If you don't have to comply with FSMA, but you are wanting to go towards a GAP certification, this is a good first step to take, even if you don't have to comply.
Right. And more than likely, if they're dealing with a large grocery store chain or buyers that are with distribution companies, they probably are above that $25,000 limit. So they're probably going to have to go through the FSMA program and your produce safety rule and then work toward the gap.
It's very likely. We have a few farms that don't meet that threshold, but have the gap certification.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, but
that's interesting.
You know, usually, yeah, if they're working with a distributor like that, they're probably going to meet the threshold.
Yeah.
And you know, but even if they don't, we definitely still encourage people to attend those trainings. And at this time, because we don't really have the demand for people wanting an on-farm readiness review, we will still, you know, come out and walk through that standard with you and help you know how ready you are for whether it be FSMA or GAP, you know, because they do mirror each other a lot.
Yeah.
In some ways.
Yeah, because we have a lot of beginning farmers, and you know, obviously they'd love to grow bigger and deal with more buyers or buyers that would be would want a greater capacity. Therefore, the farmer needs to grow. So they probably would want to be talking to you first, and then maybe get some kind of idea about your program and what's involved, and you know, these baby steps. Then maybe move toward the gap. Do we typically have more farmers that fall below the $25,000 threshold? I mean, we don't have a lot.
We do have a lot of those farms here in Louisiana. But again, you know, food safety is so important for everybody because
it should be, yeah, everybody should consider it, regardless of your size.
Regardless of your size and where you're selling to, you need to take that into consideration and put those good agricultural practices, these food safety practices into place on your farm if you don't already have them. Mm-hmm. So, you know, that's why I really champion that training, because it's a one-day training, and it's a lot of great information. You get a lot of great resources by being at that training. So I definitely champion it, and regardless of your size, I think it's a good starting place.
Okay, great, thank you.
And just kind of to add on to that question, kind of the exact same idea. So let's say you are exempt, you are too small, or you are growing a lot of product that will be processed. Can you still have the FSMA inspection, even if you don't have to do it? Can you still have somebody come out and inspect and say, okay, you guys are doing everything that you can for produce safety?
You wouldn't have the inspection, but we could come out and do the on-farm readiness review. You know, and again, the hope, at least my hope, is that, you know, even if you're right now falling below that threshold, I would hope that your produce is so well liked by consumers that eventually you exceed that threshold. And I do have to come out and do an inspection because that means you've been successful. And you know, I champion that training because I feel like even if you fall below that threshold, hopefully your goal is to grow and to expand your cells. And so you go ahead and you get this out of the way. As of right now, once you take that training, your certification and in that training is good for life at this point. They haven't come out with a different version where you have to retake the training. So, you know, even if you're below that minimum monetary threshold, go ahead and take it. And that way, if your sales go above 25,000 at some point, you've already got that out of the way.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so to sum it all up, thankfully, this is free. You know, this is a law that you have to, you know, pass and comply with. But even if you meet the requirements for exemption, or you don't actually have to have the inspection, it's still a good idea to learn more about produce safety on your farm by attending one of these Safety Alliance trainings that we'll talk about later in this video. Yeah, just to get the basics and get started.
Yeah, it's a great place to start regardless of your size, and even if you're not growing something that's going to fall under the produce safety rule, if you're growing something that's considered not typically consumed raw. There's some really great practices that are discussed in that training that anybody growing produce could implement on their farm.
And can we get that website one more time that people can find more information at?
Yes, www.laproducesafety.com.
Great. Thanks so much, Allison. And with that, we will move on to Audrey.
Good morning. I'm Audrey Carrier with the Department of Agriculture's Fruit and Vegetable Program. I work in collaboration with the USDA to provide USDA GAP, Good Agriculture, Good Handling Practices audits. They're a third-party food safety audit that farmers can request. It's a voluntary program in order to give themselves a market advantage. We do on-the-farm audits. We offer both, well, actually we offer 3 different audits. We offer a basic GAP, which is our Good Agriculture, Good Handling Practices audit. We offer an additional Harmonize, which is a little bit more in-depth and requires some more documentation. And then we also offer the Harmonize Plus, which is a GFSI Global Food Initiative equivalent. And in order to get information or to request those audits, you can contact USDA, or you can call our Hammond office and ask to speak to myself, or email me. And those services are, we charge $115 an hour for those, and those prices are mandated by USDA. It is an annual renewal, so that certification is good for 1 year. And at the end of 12 months, you must, if you want to continue in the program, you must go ahead and contact somebody to come out and do another audit. The audit gives you the advantage of being able to demonstrate that you are following good agriculture, good handling practices. A lot of people use it as a marketing tool in order to sell their product. Today, most businesses, most wholesale warehouses and grocery stores and other outlets require food safety certification in order to be in compliance with their own food safety programs. That's all I have.
That covers it. All right. Would you mind giving us the information to contact the Hammond office or to email you, and that way we'll have it in the video?
You can email me at Carrier, Carrier at ldaf.state.la.us, or you can call, my direct line is 985-542-3208.
Great. And I have a question about the cost. So you gave that as an hourly cost. How many hours does it typically take to get GAP certified? Because I feel like it can vary like crazy.
Absolutely.
Some guesses.
It is. It can be very expensive. We charge $115 an hour, and as I said, that's mandated by USDA, and that includes our time spent traveling to and from your farm, time spent on the farm, and the time spent at our desk doing follow-up paperwork. So generally, audits that are close to our Hammond office, those travel charges are calculated from our Hammond office. If you're closer to the Hammond office, obviously the travel charges are going to be much reduced. If you're on the northern part of the state, they can be very expensive. What we do try to do is ask farmers who may be in that area to try to schedule their audits all together so that we can divide those travel costs among the audits, and that way no one person is responsible for $1,000 in just travel alone. We try to work with our farmers that way. Also, the LSU and Southern systems both have a cost share program, which can help reduce some of those charges in the form of a reimbursement if a farmer is willing to participate in their food safety trainings. And so that's been a great help, an advantage to some of our farmers. A lot of our farmers have taken advantage of that and helped reduce their costs tremendously. In addition to what LDAF charges, USDA also charges $115 an hour for their part, which is reviewing that audit, issuing the certificate, and loading the information up to the USDA website. So an average audit can cost, if you're close to the office, around $500. And then if you're away from the office, say in Bastrop or the Oak Grove area, it can cost upwards of $1,500 to $2,000. Again, as I said, though, that you can get some of those charges reimbursed through the LSU and Southern program if you will attend their food safety trainings, and they'll reimburse you up to 75%, or in general about $1,000 of those charges.
Great. And we've also seen with some of our marketing people, like with Capital City Produce, that they also have programs to help you get GAP certified because they only work with GAP certified growers. So there are definitely some opportunities to mitigate that cost. That's really interesting. And we'll get some more information from both LSU and Southern a little later about those cost share programs and more info about GAP. Dr.
If anyone's interested in just checking and seeing what's required, they can go to the USDA website, and that's the ans.usda.gov website.
Mm-hmm.
If they will search under services, there's an auditing and accreditation headline. And if they click on that, then they can go to the GAP, GAP-GHP programs. And there they can actually view the checklist that is used when I come out to the farm. So there's no surprises. You know exactly what I'll be asking and looking for when I come out to the farm, because you have it, you have access to that right in front of you.
Great. So I think it's really exciting to be able to meet you, the certifier here, so they know exactly who's coming out to the farm. This is the person that's going to do the audit. And that's something that I learned in one of our earlier meetings. You do the audit, but you don't do anything in the preparatory. You can't walk through beforehand and tell them what's wrong. But we do have programs with LSU and Southern that can walk through, and we'll cover those in just a little bit as well.
Absolutely. And we do have one additional USDA GAP auditor as of June of last year. We have a gentleman, Long Trent, who is also very good as an auditor. I think Mr. Deshotel, who you'll hear from later, has had experience with both myself and Mr. Trent. And so hopefully he can speak to how easy it is to work with us. And again, we're glad to work with any of our farmers. Unfortunately, if you have something that's not in compliance, we can't do anything about that. That's what we're there to identify. And if it's out of compliance, we can work within our guidelines to report that, and then people have an opportunity to make those corrections, and then we come back out and hopefully everything as it's supposed to be.
Yeah. So that's a big, advisor right there, to talk to your extension first to get prepared for this audit, because that audit is, final. There's no, oh, this is wrong, let me fix it real quick. Nope, it's wrong.
Right. Actually, it can be corrected, but again, it's corrected by an additional follow-up audit, which is, going to have your expense, unfortunately. Yeah. So you definitely want to work with Southern or your extension office, or even other farmers who have had previous experience with audits, to make sure that by the time the auditor gets out there, you've got everything pretty much as it needs to be.
Great. And as you said earlier, you know, if you're looking to work with a wholesale distributor or any of these larger companies, GAP is something that you're going to need to sell to them. And we'll get some more insight on that in our marketing perspective video. Dr. Hodson, do you have any questions for Audrey?
Sure, I have one question for Audrey. I know that this is a requirement for buyers, or that buyers will require the farmer to be GAP certified. As you're working with buyers that may not require GAP certification, how can you convince them or educate them on the advantages of dealing with GAP certified farmers? Because they can use that as they approach these farmers and say, look, we really would rather have you GAP certified because. So what are the advantages for a farmer that, let's say, a buyer could relay on to a farmer?
I think the advantage is that you have documentation that you are making every effort to provide a safe, contaminant-free product. And I think that in today's world, especially on the heels of COVID, that's going to be more and more advantageous to us.
Yeah, so as a result, a company, an organization, a hospital, a school can then tell the farmer, we really want to have some kind of proof that you are using safe agricultural procedures in your farming operations. So therefore, we would want you to be GAP certified, correct?
Yes, yes. It does give, you know, a certification, a verifiable documentation that you are following good handling, good agriculture practices, and doing all you can to reduce contamination, and specifically microbial contamination.
Okay, good. So it's getting the word out to buyers to understand and learn more about GAP so that as they deal with farmers, they can educate them on how important it is for the farmers to go through the GAP certification, correct? Okay, thank you.
And I have one more question, because some of the certifications we've covered, you know, like organic, apply to not only the farm, but also the processor and other stages up the supply chain. Is GAP something that is only for the farm, or can other parts of the supply chain be GAP certified?
No, there are other parts that can be, warehouses can be GAP certified, farms can be GAP certified, the packing houses can be GAP certified. So yeah, beyond the farm.
All right, well, thank you so much. With that, we'll move on to our GAP certified farmer, Mr. James Deshotel of James Deshotel Produce in Bunkie. Mr. James, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and your farm.
Yeah, I'm James Deshotel. I have a sweet potato farm in Bunkie, Louisiana, and we grow sweet potatoes, and then we also market our own sweet potatoes.
Do you guys sell at a farmer's market, to a distributor? You know, a little bit more about y'all's business.
Yeah, we sell to chain stores and produce houses also. Another thing that wasn't mentioned earlier is that if a produce house has to be GAP certified, all his suppliers got to be GAP certified. So it's really hard to do business nowadays without being GAP certification.
I hear you. So with that, what was the process like for you guys of becoming GAP certified? Would you say it was lengthy, easy, complex?
It was very complex for us when we started. We was, I guess, one of the first ones in the state. And they didn't even have an audit like Audrey at that time. They had to come out of Mississippi to audit us.
Oh my.
But back then, they didn't have no seminars or no schoolings or nobody you could call to even ask how to do it. So it was very complex at that time. But now it's very easy. I mean, they got training schools. They got a lot of people that is GAP certified that you can get the information from.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, you know, it went from complex to real easy now.
Well, that's good. Would you say that it's a long process? You know, it takes you like a year to get certified, or is there a lot of paperwork?
Well, it all depends on how your packing house is set up. Yeah, it is a lot of paperwork also, but if your packing house is, you know, in good shape, clean, you know, no holes in your walls, and it really doesn't take that long. Now, as far as paperwork, yeah, it is lengthy, but everybody's interested in food safety. We all got grandkids, kids, so we definitely want to have a good food supply that is safe. I think that's a goal of everybody in this society.
Yeah. So how can having this certification affect your business? Why did you get this certification to begin with?
Well, every customer we sell to demands it. So we wouldn't have any customers unless we would have GAP certification. Everybody we deal with, we probably got 30 customers that we deal with, and every one of them demands it. So be honest with you, without GAP certification, we wouldn't have a business.
Wow. So you would say having this certification definitely opens your market even more, maybe than it was before you had the certification, or before it was required.
Well, we wouldn't have any business if we wouldn't be GAP certified. Every produce house, every chain store, they all demand GAP certification. It's not that it enhances our business, it's that we wouldn't have any business without GAP certification. Yeah. I don't know how you could grow produce and sell it without it.
And I think that brings in kind of a question of scale. Maybe a smaller grower wouldn't need it because they're not selling to larger distributors. So with that, who would you recommend this GAP certification to?
Well, I would recommend to anybody that's into produce business. What if you get a call today from a wholesaler that wants to buy 2 truckloads of produce from you? Mm-hmm. And the first question he's going to ask you, are you GAP certified? Well, if you say no, you're not, but that goes your business. It's no reason why not to be GAP certified. Mm-hmm. And GAP certification also helps you in your business because you got somebody else that's looking over you. And I'm not going to say looking over you, but checking over you. When you hear every day, you might miss something. And when you're getting certified like this, you got more eyes out there that can look at a problem that you might be having and can resolve that problem. Not everybody's perfect, so more people you have overlooking your operation, nothing falls through the cracks, in other words.
Yeah, I hear you. Dr. Hodson, do you have any questions for James?
Well, I guess, James, it's more of a statement. I know last year there was a large food distribution company that was looking for sweet potatoes. And of course, knowing they were GAP certified, it was a matter of finding someone like you who was GAP certified. So you do find that buyers, by and large, now are requiring or asking that question if you are GAP certified. And if you are, then they can work with you, right? You're hearing more and more customers or buyers say, they want to have you GAP certified, correct?
But yes, and then not only that, but we got to turn in all our paperwork to them. All our GAP certification work. It's not that just ask about it; they want to have proof of it.
Okay, so there's certain documentation that a buyer will ask of you, showing that you've passed the audit and you are indeed certified. So it's further proof that you've gone through the program and have the certification that they're asking for.
Yeah, and they have, we call that warehouses, wholesale warehouses. Mm-hmm. They have to get GAP certified to sell to the chain stores. Mm-hmm. In order for them to get GAP certified, all their suppliers got to be GAP certified. So they can't not buy from me and be GAP certified. Yeah. So it's really a chain reaction, GAP certification is a big deal now. That's, it's a tool, but you have to have it.
Right. And we're hearing more and more about the importance of a strong supply chain. And if you're GAP certified and each and every person that deals with the buyer ultimately is GAP certified, it makes that so much easier.
Yes. Then everything runs smooth.
Yeah, exactly. I know it was easy last year.
When my certification goes out, I got to get recertified. And my customers know when it's time, they're gonna ask me for it.
Yeah. So
You
that's
know,
often the
I mean,
first
you're
question.
not gonna be selling to them without, you know, with your GAP certification going out of date. In other words, they're gonna cut you off.
Right. Okay. Thank you, James.
All right.
You're welcome.
Well, just to recap then, this is not required by law. This is not a certification that you absolutely have to have to do business legally. But if you're selling to a distributor or any type of these larger companies, having GAPs is going to be necessary because it, shows through great detail that you are paying attention to your food safety. And it's something that they can use to certify their packing houses, their distribution centers, and so on. Audrey, if you're available, go ahead.
Yeah, not even packing houses, and also any kind of processing. If you sell sweet potatoes to French fries for Lamb Weston, they require also. So it's almost any buyer that's buying produce, even processors.
Mm-hmm. So, Audrey, if you're available, I'd like to direct this question at you as well. Of who would you recommend this certification to? Because I'm hearing a lot about, processors and warehouses, but we do have lots of growers in our state that aren't at that larger capability yet. Would you recommend that they also get GAP certified?
I do recommend some type, GAP is one of a whole list of food safety certifications that you can acquire. It is, I believe, the most economical of those certifications. And I recommend it to every farmer. I have a farmer that's got, I think, a 600 square foot growing area. I have farmers who have an indoor facility the size of a large bedroom who are GAP certified. And it gives them an opportunity. Number one, as James said, you're not trying to catch up afterwards. If someone asks for your certification, you don't have to say, oh, I don't have it. Give me a minute, I'll go get it. Because you do have to have certain documentation, and sometimes it takes more than a week to gather all that certification to get GAP certified. So you want to be able to demonstrate that over the last 6 months or the last year, I've been doing these things that are food safety compliant. So size does not matter. Even if you're at a farmer's market and say someone comes and says, I bought vegetables here from you last week and my whole family got sick, and I think that your vegetables made us sick. At least having that food safety certification would give you a layer of protection to say, I'm very sorry your family got sick, but I don't believe that it was possibly us. There may be another source because, I have food safety documentation to show that we're doing everything we're supposed to be doing, Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Audrey and James, for telling us a little bit more about GAP and good handling practices. With that, we're going to move on to Dr. Achyut Adhikari. Achyut, if you would please introduce yourself, your role, and your relationship to the local food system.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much, Cindy. Hello, everyone. I am Achyut Adhikari. I am assistant professor and extension food safety specialist with Louisiana State University AgCenter. So with LSU AgCenter, we help growers and food producers to meet federal and market-driven food safety requirements. With this, we provide several different types of training that includes the good agricultural practices training. We also provide training that help grower and food producers meet Food Safety Modernization Act requirement, like the Produce Safety Alliance Growers Training, the Food Safety Preventive Control Alliance, Preventive Control of Human Food requirement training, water treatment and sampling training, farmers market training, and also worker health and hygiene training. Some of the trainings, like the worker health hygiene training, we actually provide on the farm, and we have graduate students that speak Spanish, and we actually provide those trainings on the farm. Those are hands-on training on Spanish. So any growers that wants their workers to train in Spanish, please let us know. We can provide those training also. But today, I am going to talk about the Produce Safety Alliance growers training. Before I go in detail about this training, I really want to make it sure and then make it clear that this Produce Safety Alliance growers training is not a certification program. So it is a training program to educate growers to let their knowledge increase on best management practices, good agricultural practices, and to minimize food safety risk during pre-harvest or post-harvest handling of the food. So what does that mean? What does this training mean? This Produce Safety Alliance growers training is developed by Cornell University. So there is a collaboration between Cornell University, all the state universities, FDA, and then USDA to develop a course that will help growers to meet the federal Food Safety Modernization Act requirement. Okay, so there is a rule, that is associated with all growers, and you may have already known about that Food Safety Modernization Act. So when we talk about this Food Safety Modernization Act, this rule covers the entire food chain from the farm to at the point of sale. So there are 7 different rules associated within the FSMA rule. One of that rule is the produce safety rule. So under this produce safety rule, under the section 112.22c, there is a specific requirement for the growers. So the specific requirement is at least one person from every farm that has to comply with the rule. At least one person has to take a food safety training that is recognized by FDA. So right now we have only one training, food safety training, that is recognized by FDA, and that training is the Produce Safety Alliance growers training. So this Produce Safety Alliance growers training, as I said, is developed by Cornell University, but the training certificates, the training registration is handled by the Association of Food and Drug Officials. And like me, there are several different extension agents, throughout the United States that are lead instructor who offer this training several times a year. So this training is a mandatory training. This training is a mandatory training for only those growers that grows fresh produce that are consumed raw. Again, only for those growers that grows fresh produce that are consumed raw. But we have noticed, in last few years, we have noticed that several of the buyers are also requiring this training for growers that does not sell fresh produce. Like for example, the distal farms, like you just mentioned about gap training. So even though sweet potato growers are not covered under the rule, some of the buyers, like Delhi food processing plant, they may require their growers to have them take this training. This is not a mandatory training for fresh produce that are not consumed raw, but again, there may be a requirement by the buyers. So, if you want to find more information about this Produce Safety Alliance growers training, you can visit our webpage. We have, you can go to the www.LSU AgCenter/food safety. We have tremendous amount of information over there about the Produce Safety Alliance growers training. You can also directly visit the Produce Safety Alliance, a webpage, which is producesafetyalliance.cornell.edu. You will get a lot of information, about the training. If you want to get this training, you can reach out directly to me or any LSU AgCenter extension agent. Here in Louisiana, we work together with Louisiana Department of Agriculture and Forestry and Southern University. So there are several different Produce Safety Alliance growers trainings that is offered throughout the year by LSU AgCenter or by Southern University. So you can take either of those trainings. So if you want any of those training, let us know, reach out to us. We should have training, a nearer location, sometimes several times a year. So which cover under this rule? As I mentioned before, fresh produce growers that grow produce that are consume raw. So if you grow produce and you sell more than $25,000 per year of your produce, then you have to take this training. At least one person from your farm must have to take this training. Even though you sell less than $25,000 per year, you may be selling it to the farmer's market. You may be selling it to your neighbor, or you may be selling it to a restaurant. You want to make sure that you understand food safety risk. So this course is a really valuable course that goes over good agricultural practices, best management practices, preventive control measures. So this course will be a very valuable course for everyone. Cost, we are very fortunate that we have a really good collaboration with the Louisiana Department of Agriculture and Forestry. And in fact, if you add this cost, it will add around $120 because the cost of manual, this Produce Safety Alliance Growers Manual, cost around $50. The cost for the certificate that will be issued by AFDO, that costs around $35, and including handout and lunch and refreshment, it goes above $120. But because of the collaboration with the LDAF, there is a funding that subsidizes the cost. So we only charge $20 per grower. If they want to take this training, only $20. And this, once you take this training once, you are good. You don't have to take this training every year. Okay, so if FDA feel like there is significant changes, or if the Produce Safety Alliance develop a new training course with significant changes, then you may take this course again. But once you take this course, you are good. But we have growers, we have growers that want to learn more, because every year we have new things. We do a lot of produce safety research also, and then we use those research data during the training. We presented it to our growers. So we have growers that are taking this training from last couple of years every year when we offer this course. So that's all from my side. If you guys have any questions about this Produce Safety Alliance growers training, I will be happy to answer.
Yeah, so I'd just like to sum up. Thank you so much, Achyut. So this training, the Produce Safety Alliance growers training, is mandatory if you sell more than $25,000 worth of fresh produce consumed raw. If you sell less than that, or if you're not selling fresh produce entirely, maybe you're selling a mixture of cottage goods and other things, this training is highly recommended, as it is a great way to learn more about food safety, risk, all the way from growing in the field to handling and processing. I've attended the training and I found it incredibly informational. And it may not be required by law for you if you don't fit those terms, but it might be required by a buyer that you are going to sell to. And it would normally cost $120, but thanks to the partnerships that we have with LDAF, it only costs $20 per person. So even if this is not required by law for you, this is the best deal that you're going to get on learning the basics of farm food safety. You only have to do it one time, which is great, but you can go as many times as you want, because like you said, you're always developing new research and finding more information. So although the basics of the training don't change every time, there's more information to learn. And it's always good to have a refresher. Maybe it's something that one person on your farm does every year and you rotate who it is, so everybody knows what's going on. And at $20, that is an absolute steal. Thank you so much. Dr. Hodson, do you have any questions for Achyut?
Yeah, Achyut, the program that you're talking about, does it require a food safety plan be developed by the farm?
Not this Produce Safety Alliance growers training, because the FSMA Produce Safety rule does not require growers to develop a food safety plan. So what we do is, we understand that a food safety plan is very much important for growers to effectively manage their food safety management system in their farm. So anytime when we offer this course, we add that segment of helping growers to develop their food safety plan. Okay, so when we do offer this training, we have that another section, produce safety, food safety plan development course, and that also will be helpful for any growers that want to go for GAP certification, because they will already have their food safety plan ready whenever they want to go for GAP certification.
So it's a good first step if a farmer does feel like eventually they will be of the size to eventually go through the GAP program, correct? So you suggest this training program be a good way for a farmer to get into or gather a better understanding of all the food safety programs that are out there.
Absolutely. Any farmers, any fresh produce farmers, like if they are covered under the rule or not, if they want to sell their produce to other people other than their house, this course is highly recommended. Okay, and once they take this course, it will be very helpful for them in order to go for other certification. Again, this course, this course is only a training program. I really want to make it clear again, because a lot of people, what they think is attending this course will make them FSMA compliance. That is not the case. When you attend this course, you are complying the training requirement that is stated under the FSMA Produce Safety Rule. After you attend this course, you need to go back and then you have to implement those requirements on your farm. That is very, very important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've been also fortunate to attend one of your programs, and I do remember you going over the food safety plan and helping the farmers go through the process. Do you offer any additional help? I mean, if a farmer is just unable to complete that food safety plan, do you have someone on your staff, or can you provide some one-on-one? Because that may be a challenge for some of the farmers to be able to take care of that, maybe because their farm is so large.
That's a great question. Thank you so much for bringing that question. As I stated, we offer several different services. So one, our, my graduate student and myself, I also go to the farm, and then I also offer on-farm readiness review program. Okay, so we have two different types of review that we offer. One is on-farm readiness review program, and then another one is a mock audit for GAP certification. Two different things. So with this FSMA rule, we offer on-farm readiness review program that if a grower wants, they can invite us and we will go over, and then we will follow all the requirements that are stated under the FSMA Produce Safety Rule to see if that growers meet the FSMA Produce Safety Rule requirement or not. If they do not meet any requirement, then we will give them recommendation, and then we will follow up with them so that they can easily meet those requirements before the inspectors visit their farm. That is for the FSMA Produce Safety Rule requirement. But as I mentioned, we also offer mock audit for GAP certification. So if growers want to go for GAP certification, we actually go to the farm. We will walk over each and every step that are required under the GAP certification, and then we will give them the recommendation. Okay. One of the important requirements, again, with the Produce Safety Rule and any other market-driven food safety requirement is worker training. And as you know, in Louisiana, as like other states, we have a lot of Spanish-speaking growers. So we recently completed like a 3 on-farm training course, and we had a really great feedback. So I have a graduate student who can speak Spanish. They can go to the farm, and then the farmer can invite us anytime, depending on the schedule. We can provide training up to 20 workers at one time, and all those training is hands-on training. So when you are on the farm providing training in Spanish, and all those are hands-on training related to risk assessment, fantastic. We have seen like a grow, those farm workers engage so much, with those trainers. So anyone want to take opportunity of those services, please let us know. We want to travel anywhere in Louisiana. We will work with your schedule, and then we will find a time, we will find a date. There is no cost associated with this training. We will come over there, we will provide you the training.
Dr. Hodson, did you have any more questions for Achyut?
No, that'll take care of it, but thank you, Achyut. It's always nice talking to you.
Thank you so much for all your support.
So from what I remember from taking your training course as well, aside from the help that you guys can provide with getting GAP certified or complying with the Produce Safety Rule, do you also do some GAP work during your Produce Safety Alliance training, right?
Exactly. So I forgot to mention about the services. One services that we offer is also cost reimbursement program. Okay. So as you mentioned, earlier during this presentation, whenever we provide any training, we try to provide 1.5-day training course. The first day training course just focus on the Produce Safety Alliance growers training. And the second day, we focus on developing a food safety plan. So what we do is we have a template, a food safety plan template that can work or works for all the growers. So we bring that template in John Drive and we bring laptops and we work one by one with the growers to develop their food safety plan. So why I'm emphasizing this food safety plan is even though growers doesn't want to get a GAP certification, I always recommend them having the food safety plan because we have growers that gives me a call, hey, Dr. Adhikari, I want to get a GAP certification within 2 weeks and I want to sell this produce to my buyer. And sometimes it is really difficult to prepare the food safety plan, implement all the requirement, for the GAP requirement within 2 weeks. So it's always important to be ready. So any growers, that comes to our training will have a food safety plan at the end of the training. That is much more aligned with their farm. When they go back, they can keep their food safety plan, they can implement the food safety plan and be ready if the buyers ask for a GAP certification. If not, they can just keep that one, if they want to sell it to the farmers market. When they are ready for a GAP certification, they go ahead and then invite an auditor and get a GAP certification. And we have programs that will help to reimburse almost up to $1,000 or 75% of the cost associated with the auditing. So I again appreciate the Louisiana Specialty Crop Block Grant Program. We have been receiving this grant program from last 5 years, and then in last 5 years, we have helped several of our growers to reimburse their auditing fees. So we provide service to develop their food safety plan. We have funding to support their auditing fees also.
Great. That brought up a question. I wonder if you can answer it pretty quickly. You said a farmer might try to get GAP certified within 2 weeks, and that's crazy. I mean, so much.
That's crazy. Yep.
But something that we've talked about, like with organic certification, there's a 3-year transition before everything is organic, and I understand that is very different. And I'm not sure if this is a question for you or Audrey, but how long do you have to be working on getting GAP certified? Is it something that you can change all of your rules that day and you're ready to get audited tomorrow?
No, you have been doing that all the time. You have to follow the food safety practice, and that means that you need to have proper documentation ready. You need to document all your food safety practices. At least, for a year, you need to have that documentation ready whenever you want to go for a GAP certification. That is really, really important because you don't want to put together everything, all those documentation, all those documents, without any record and invite an auditor. You need to have all those records and documentation ready.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much, Achyut. I really appreciate all that information. And if people want to find more about the Produce Safety Alliance Growers Training and all of the other food safety trainings you guys provide, they can go to the website listed here, lsuagcenter.com/foodsafety.
And if I may add,
go ahead.
This is Audrey. If I may add, there may be a few farmers out there who are keeping records that would be the necessary records to complete a GAP audit. So, it's possible that there are farmers out there who even though they're not being audited at this time, maybe they do have most of the records that they would need in order to complete a GAP audit. So the main thing would be to call Dr. Adhikari and his team or someone who is familiar and have them review what you have and where you're at, because it may be that it's possible that some people may actually be ready within a couple of weeks.
That's a really good point. I again want to make it clear that even though a growers doesn't have a GAP certification now, but if they are following food safety practices and then if they have documentation ready, they can go for a GAP certification within 2 weeks. It's not impossible, but you cannot restart everything within 2 weeks. That's the important thing. But Again, I want to make it clear with the growers, if you want to go for GAP certification, if your buyers is asking you, you're following food safety practices, you have documentation, give us a call. We will review the document and we will make you ready for a GAP audit.
Great. All right, thank you so much. That cleared up a lot, and I feel like I know a lot more about GAPs now. I know it can get really confusing. With that, we're going to move. Oh, of course, thanks for joining us. With that, we're going to move on to Chelsea Trish with LSU AgCenter to give us more information about the programs that they provide there. So Chelsea, if you'd go ahead and introduce yourself and your organization and the role in the local food system.
All right. So greetings, everyone. My name is Chelsea Trish, and I'm a research and training coordinator with the Southern University Agricultural Research and Extension Center. So the role of my organization and myself in the local food system is to educate farmers about produce safety and assist farmers in preparation for inspections for those who fall underneath the produce safety rule, and for those who are interested in audits, and that would be third-party audits. So the Southern University AgCenter offers 2 programs for farmers, and they are the Produce Safety Alliance Grower Training and Good Agricultural Practices Workshops. The Produce Safety Alliance Grower Training satisfies the Food Safety Modernization Act Produce Safety Rule training requirement. And with the Produce Safety Alliance Grower Training, we offer either the 1-day option, which is an 8-hour option, and then also we do now 2-day trainings, and that would have the first day we go over 4 of the modules, and the second day we go over the other 4, and then we include a lot of hands-on activities with this option. And for a lot of our growers, that is seeming to be more popular because they want to kind of break up the material and then also have more hands-on demonstrations to enforce the material on their operations. And then with our second program is Good Agricultural Practices Workshop. And this is a 1-day workshop where we discuss a farm food safety plan more in depth, and then also discuss the evaluating risk on their operation. We also go over the components of a GAP audit and the auditing process, and have time for farm food safety plan writing, where farmers can either work independently or with one of our staff members. At this workshop, all participants receive a farm food safety plan binder that includes a farm food safety plan guide, copies of templates of standard operating procedures, all the logs and records required by the GAP audit, a copy of the audit itself, and other helpful resources. They also receive a flash drive with a farm food safety plan template on their flash drive and a copy of all the resources that were included in the binder. And so one of our resources that I want to discuss is our farm food safety plan guide. We understand that all of our farmers are not technologically savvy, and doing a template online or on the computer is not something that they're comfortable with or have a lot of experience with. So we do offer a guide for them. And this is more of a question and answer format, where they actually get to evaluate their risk on their farm and get to decide policies if they do not have ones in place. And this is also really good for farmers who really may not have ever thought about the policies on their operation. So it gets them thinking about their operation, how they want their operation to be run, following these produce safety guidelines. We also give these resources to help the farmers be prepared for an audit. Ms. Audrey discussed how expensive an audit is. It's $115 per hour. So the only way that a farmer can save money on their operation is by decreasing the time the auditor is there. And that is by them being prepared. So the more prepared they are, if they have all of their resources in one place, they know what the auditor is looking for, that decreases the time and that saves them money. And so with our cost share program, we have the similar program to LSU, so where we're able to reimburse the farmers up to 75% of the audit expenses, not to exceed $1,000. And this is only for the initial audit. So in addition to these 2 programs, we also offer on-farm risk assessments, off-farm farm food safety plan writing assistance, on-farm readiness reviews, and that's aligned with the Food Safety Modernization Produce Safety Rule. And then we also do GAP mock audits. And all of these extra programs, there's no cost to the farmer. The only thing that we do charge for is for our training and gap workshops. And the reason we have to charge for that is because through our grant, we cannot supply food with that money. So the only cost is that $20 if it's just a one-day training, or $25 if it's a two-day training on the first day and then workshop on the second day, or if it's the two-day PSA training. And so we are just here to help throughout the entire process, from educating all the way to implementation on the farm.
Great. All right, so you guys cover, everything on food safety to help the grower from getting started to learning, I don't have any type of food safety plan. How do I even start that with the guide, helping them ask those questions themselves, look around their farm and see what kind of risks do they have that they might not even know about. You also provide the same Produce Safety Alliance growers training at $20 to $25, depending on 1 or 2 day training for lunch, which makes sense. And I'm sure it is a great lunch. All of these trainings, I find the lunch is particularly good to make sure everybody stays interested and awake and focused.
And that's one thing we try. We do the lunch. We also do having some type of refreshments, coffee in the morning. It's a long day. So we try to make sure the coffee pot is always full to keep everybody alert, and then also having snacks, because we want people to feel comfortable. We don't want them to be thinking about their next meal or distracted from what we're teaching. So we want to make sure they have everything they need so that we can keep their focus the entire time.
Yeah, it's a lot to learn. It's a lot of information, and this can be so drastically different than what your farmer is doing on a daily basis. Or even if it's not the main farmer, somebody else that works on the farm, is not used to sitting in class all day, just focused on food safety. It's a lot of information. We've had a few phone calls as we've got this training together, and each time like, okay, let me take notes and make sure I know what's going on and ask the right questions. So your program and Achyut's program seem really similar. Why should a farmer work with one or the other? Do you guys work in different areas of the state?
So there's no difference. The way we try to have it is that you should receive the exact same information, similar materials. There may be a few differences between the materials since they may be made in-house. But there shouldn't be a preference. We try to, when we're scheduling with the Louisiana Department of Agriculture and Forestry, each year when we're saying, okay, where we're hosting trainings and workshops, we try to pick different areas so we're not in the exact same city or town, just a few weeks apart, and try to spread out our training schedule. So we understand if somebody's busy and they're in this area, maybe we'll be a few hours away during a different part of the year. But we're both here to serve all of the Louisiana growers and farmers when it comes to produce safety.
Okay, so you guys try and plan it out. So maybe one of you is in Baton Rouge, the other one's Lafayette, one's Shreveport, and one's Monroe, and just kind of work all over the state that way. And
yes, ma'am.
I've seen on the Cornell website, all of the Produce Safety Alliance trainings that are booked get posted there. So that's how somebody could keep up to date with when and where our trainings are being held in Louisiana. Is that right?
Yes, that's also correct.
Great. All right. Thank you so much. So you guys also offer the same cost share program, do the walkthroughs to help people get ready to get GAP certified, as well as make sure they're complying with the FSMA produce safety rule. That's great. So they have the website there where they can find plenty of information of how to get started. Is there another website or any contact information you'd like to give for somebody who's trying to become more aware of their produce safety regulations?
So this website is really great. On this website, I know Dr. Fatima's email is attached to it, but if anybody has any questions, they can reach me with my first name _ last name at suagcenter.com. One thing that I've really been trying to tell our farmers that we've been in contact with is use this time during this pandemic. A lot of our farmers are seeing that they have more downtime, unfortunately, due to this, but our farmers who don't have farm food safety plans already, this is a great time to do that writing. I've had quite a few farmers email me their farm food safety plans, which I've been very happy about, to actually review. So if anybody right now needs some type of resources or needs some assistance, myself, I know I'm here, and I'm sure that Dr. Achyut has somebody that he can direct assistance to, so that we are making sure that once this is all over, and things go back to the new normal, that our farmers are prepared to start selling their produce and maybe even look at some other avenues of selling.
Yeah, so I just want to remind everybody watching, we're at home, most of us, but like we're here, we're working, we're here to help you. And we might even have, more capability to help you now because we're not worrying about going out to all these different events. So if you have questions, please email us about these certifications and we can help you get started. Dr. Hodson, do you have any questions for Chelsea?
Well, actually, it's a question for both Chelsea and Achyut. It's regarding the reimbursement. Now, once the farmer does complete the training or go through the program, has everything ready, schedules an audit, but they don't pass, does that mean they don't get the reimbursement? How can you qualify for a reimbursement from having this audit done for your GAP certification?
So I don't know if Dr. Chu wanted to go. I don't know if our programs are different in that sense.
Is it automatic?
So it is a strong encouragement that the people who qualify for the reimbursement on our end do pass. And we say that because we offer the workshop and we offer so much technical assistance that we don't want someone just to come and then not use any of our technical assistance and then end up failing because they needed more assistance. They weren't truly prepared for the audit. So we do look at it that sense. Now Dr. Fatima and I, who is our program director, have discussed that. If it's maybe one of those freak things that happens, we will work on a case-to-case basis with our farmers. But we want our farmers to take advantage of all of the programs and all the resources that we have, that we offer, and use those. And then if you do everything and you do your mock audits and you hire your farm food safety plan, if you properly prepared your operation and your staff and done all your training, then you should pass your audit. And there are some pass and fail, things that can make you automatically fail, but you should get your 80% in your section that you're getting audited and get that audit certification.
So that's why it's even more important for a farmer that's getting ready to even consider going to GAP, that they take advantage of the program through the Southern AgCenter as well as the LSU AgCenter. So that there's help out there to avoid potential of not passing and therefore not getting the cost reimbursement.
Yes, ma'am.
So they should work with you. It's a good idea. That's the first place for them to start.
Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
Dr. Chu. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Achyut, do you have any comments you'd like to make on that question?
So with the LSU AgCenter grant program, our grant requires that we can only reimburse the growers who pass the GAP audit. So in the last 4 years, since we began this program, we have only one instance that the grower, did not invite us for the mock audit, or the grower forget to work with us to review the document. But after that audit, we work with them. We went there, we did the mock audit, and then we reviewed the document, make the significant changes, and then the grower got GAP certification after that. But what I was saying is our grant requires that the grower must pass a GAP audit, in order to qualify for the audit reimbursement program. Okay, so in the last 4 years, as I mentioned, we only have one instance where the grower failed the GAP audit because the grower forgot to work with us and was in very hurry. We reach out to the auditor, and without going with us, working with us to finalize the food safety plan and do a mock audit, they went for the GAP certification, and unfortunately they failed. But after that, we worked with the grower, and the grower did everything right and was able to pass the GAP audit. So what we said is, if you are planning to go for a GAP certification and want to use the reimbursement program from us, I would really encourage the growers to reach out to us. I myself or my graduate student will work with you, to develop the food safety plan. We will come over there, on your farm, do the mock audit to see if you need to implement anything. We will want to make sure that there will be no hiccup on the way for the GAP certification. So it's not a big process, like it's not a really tedious job. It is more easy, and then if you follow the process, there will be very minimum chance of filling the GAP audit.
Great. Thank you both so much for telling us more about the programs that you offer at the LSU and SU Ag Centers. With that, we're going to get to our last produce safety certification, which is SQF. So Nolan, if you would please introduce yourself, your role in your organization, and tell us a little bit about your SQF certification.
Yes, my name's Nolan Matran Jr. I am Quality Control Manager and SQF Practitioner for Guidry's Fresh Cuts Incorporated in Arnaville, Louisiana. We have been SQF certified now going on 10 years. The SQF certification is definitely for us, at the beginning, it was a lengthy, trying process. Once we got certified, it's just a matter of keeping up our certification, and we have definitely a very good certification body we go through, Eagle certification out of Dayton, Ohio, and very good representatives from that company. So we use them on a regular basis.
Great. And so people should be familiar with your products to see them in plenty of grocery stores. You say this is a product for the lazy Cajun, right? The pre-chopped onions, celery, and everything that you need to get your dinner going.
Most definitely. We try to simplify life for everyone in the area, and Guidry's Fresh Cuts Creole seasoning become synonymous with Louisiana, with all the other major products that are synonymous to this area and go hand in hand with Cajun food.
Thanks. So what was the process like for you guys of becoming SQF certified? Did it take a long time? Was it kind of easy or what?
At the beginning, it was very complex, very trying, very long hours, a lot of policies and procedures, a lot of book work, paperwork, records that were formed, created, kept on a daily basis, paper trail for each and everything you do. Anything you can imagine that you need a paper trail for, we have it. And cleanliness, certification for cleaning, for chemicals, products coming in and out, making sure everything is GAP certified, Primus lab certified, or SQF certified. We're SQF certified, and we can do business globally with this certification.
Great. Yeah, so that really brings up why you guys might have got it in the first place. I mean, you can now send Guidry's Fresh Cuts out globally. So how can having this or not having this safe quality food certification affect your business, and why did you guys get it to start with?
It has really affected our business tremendously, because nowadays, with all the recalls that are going on and all the food safety issues that are taking place, to do business now, you have to be SQF certified. Honestly, that's the first thing your customer is going to ask of you is if you're SQF certified. And why someone would get this certification is if you're on a large enough scale to sell to large enough businesses. It's a necessity. You have to do it out of pure necessity to be able to attain and retain the businesses that are out there.
Great. So with that, who would you recommend this certification to?
The SQF certification, I would definitely recommend it to, I mean, you can be something as small as a little mom and pop, but if you're selling to, let's say, a Walmart, a Rouse's, or someone like that, they're going to ask you to be SQF certified, depending on if you're processing as opposed to just growing and selling. GAP certification in those instances may be enough, but in production and processing instances, SQF certification is the way to go.
Gotcha. So I have a few marketing questions because you guys at Guidry's, you're not growing your own produce. Is that correct?
That's the question. No, we do not. Predominantly everything that we purchase is through an outside supplier, and we purchase everything through our sister company, Guidry Produce, which does all the buying for us. So that simplifies matters for us somewhat.
And you guys do buy local produce when you can, is that correct?
When we can, we try to. Our sister company, Guidry Produce, they purchase more local product because they sell in store in their fresh produce market. They sell fresh grown, Louisiana grown produce whenever they can under the right circumstances. But a lot of those instances, we're now requiring those growers to be GAP certified minimum.
Great. So these questions might be more apt for the procurement team over at Guidry Produce, but if you're able to answer these, do you know, so the GAP minimum for sure, are there any other certifications that are required of growers selling to Guidry Produce?
Primus Lab audits and certifications, SQF certifications, but mostly GAP certifications to be able to sell inside the actual fruit stand. But for Kevin to be able to buy a product and sell to Guidry's Fresh Cuts, well, then it's a totally different animal, so to speak. Most of those items need to be SQF certified or Primus Lab certified.
Gotcha. So do you know if there's any certifications that they prefer but aren't required? Let's say, like certified organic or maybe Louisiana grown, anything like that?
Louisiana grown, like I said, to sell inside the facility would probably be sufficient. He also occasionally sells organic, but not on that large of a scale. So definitely GAP certification would be a plus to be able to sell even to Guidry Produce, who sells inside his actual fruit stand. But if he has to turn around and sell it to one of his customers, like let's say a Walmart, a Super One, or Rouse's, well then it needs to be Primus Lab certified or SQF certified.
Yeah, so that's something that's making a little bit more sense throughout this training series. Is it's not just the one step that's certified, but whoever you're selling to, they have their own certifications, and you have to be prepared to meet those with your own. So depending on where it's going, who it's selling to, if you're going to an SQF facility, it's got to be SQF certified.
Absolutely. Our SQF audits, whenever they take place here for us, we're looking at a 2-day audit and approximately $6,000 cost. So it's very expensive, and but to be able to do business with the bigger customers, that those things are asked of us, so we have to be able to accommodate it.
Yes, and that's every year you have to do that audit and pay that price?
That audit has to be renewed every single year. Yes, ma'am.
Ooh.
I call it our annual report card.
But that's something that I know it's still expensive for y'all, but you are a larger company. So for maybe a smaller business, it wouldn't be as expensive?
A smaller business, in a lot of situations, it depends on the size of the facility and also the amount of employees you have working for you. So the larger the business, square foot wise, and the larger the business dealing with employees, you're looking at more time spent auditing and more costs for the audit.
Okay. Okay. That helps to make it get a better idea of how much cost we could be looking at.
And that's $6,000 for us. That's not counting room and board and travel.
Is it similar to the GAP certification where you're paying for them by the hour for their travel, or are you paying their bills for the hotel?
We're pretty much paying their bills.
Okay. Whew. It's always learning a whole bunch more each time.
So it's very costly.
Yeah. So do you see an effect from certain branding with your consumers and buyers? So do you advertise any type of branding with your Guidry's Fresh Cuts that says, you know, Louisiana grown, Louisiana made, something like that?
Well, our main branding, other than the Guidry's Fresh Cuts logo, is Certified Cajun. We also have that certified Cajun branding on each and every one of our cups.
Great. We'll actually be going into Certified Cajun a little bit more in another one of our videos when we cover branding, other things offered by Louisiana Department of Ag and Forestry. We have a Certified Louisiana, Cajun, Creole, all of that. So have you guys always been certified that way, or once it came about, you said, oh, well, this is us, no problem, and went ahead and added it?
No, we've pretty much always been that way from day one. We're Cajun, we're proud of it, and you know, we're not chefs by any stretch of the imagination. We're real good cooks.
I have to say, though, your comment about not being chefs, I've had your gumbo a few times, and I would beg to differ. It's pretty great. We've really appreciated working with Guidry's Fresh Cuts and Kevin Guidry Produce, learning more about local procurement, especially with farm to school. I mean, I know Kevin Guidry Produce was originally started to provide food for schools in the Lafayette area. So we're really happy to work with y'all and appreciate all the support you've given us with the Louisiana Farm to School program, providing gumbo at 2 of our conferences. So thank you for that so much.
You're quite welcome. We enjoy doing it for you each and every year, and look forward to seeing you again this year.
Oh, yes. If we meet in person, that is something we're working on. Who knows
Yes.
with the quarantine.
With due time, everything will get back to normal.
Yep. If not, this format seems to be working great so far. So how important would you say certifications are when you are selecting product?
Certifications are, like I said, those are one of the first things we'll ask whenever we're dealing with a specific buyer that we do business with. Certifications are a dire necessity nowadays. Each and every one of the possible suppliers that we may go to has to have that certification for us to be able to do business with them. Otherwise, we move on to the next guy.
So it is a checkbox. If it's yes or no, that determines whether or not you are going to work with them.
Yes, ma'am, it is. There's no doubt about it. Mm-hmm. You have to have it for us to be able to purchase product with you, because food safety is our number one issue.
Now, we found with some other growers that, some other distributors, that if their growers are not meeting the standards that they need, or they're not meeting those certifications, that they'll work with them to get certified. Like Capital City will help you become GAP certified. Do you guys have any programs like that with Kevin Guidry Produce?
No, not at this time, Sydney. We're such a big not conglomerate, but we're a big business in our area, and we're really one of the only major produce processing facilities in the state. So at this time, we got to just worry about taking care of business. we don't have time to train outsiders.
Yeah. Y'all are moving and grooving, going over there, seeing all of the food coming in, food getting chopped, food getting sorted, selling it at the store, working with the schools to give them their orders. I mean, y'all are constantly go, go, go. So I understand entirely. Dr. Hodson, do you have any questions you'd like to ask Nolan?
Yes, I have a question. I know Nolan, when you were waiting for the audit to happen, when we were first talking about your participation in this workshop, how well did you do? Did Guidry's Produce pass? Did you get a gold star, or how did it go? And then tell us a little bit about, yeah, how did you do?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm very proud of this one because we scored 100% at Guidry.
Very good.
At Kevin Guidry Produce.
Very good. Congratulations.
We're very proud of those. Thank you. We're very proud of those two registrations and what they mean and the weight they carry. I mean, all our customers, that's one of the first things they ask, like James said earlier, whenever your registration's fixing to become outdated, you hear from your customers because they want to know when the new registration will be done and when it'll be coming up.
And just very briefly, because I know it sounds like it's a very involved process, what does an auditor typically do? They walk into your processing facility. What do they look for? What are some of the things that you have to be prepared for when they do come in for that audit?
Well, Pam, to be honest with you, you're in their hip pocket for 2 solid days. We're looking at the first day will be 8 to 5. The second day will be 6 to about 4. And what they do, they walk into the facility, they walk the grounds, they walk the buildings, they look at everything from if they see daylight under a door, if they see a speck on the ceiling, they look under equipment, they look on the walls, they look in the restrooms, they look at your employees, they question your employees. Then that's just the physical part of it. Then the rest of it is being done upstairs. Then they start dissecting your books, your policies, procedures, your records. They want to see everything in black and white. They don't want to see anything on a computer. It has to be on paper, and it has, I mean, you have to have all the visuals that they want to see in place for you to be able to go through, complete the audit.
Sounds very involved, so it sounds like you guys really know what you're doing to have passed with such a high score with both of your facilities.
Well, between myself and Todd Stelly, our plant manager, and several other key employees, I mean, it's a team effort. Everybody does their part. Everybody's been doing this for 10 years now, SQF, and before that was third-party audits. But I mean, we have a great team here that have been putting this together for a long time. I've been doing this now for 16 years, so I have a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of retail knowledge. And Todd Stelly, our plant manager, he's been doing this since 1990. So, I mean, he has a lot of knowledge, and I've learned a lot from him, and he shared a lot of his knowledge, he and Kevin, to me, which in turn help us also with our SQF audit and our preparation to get ready for this audit, which is a very important part of what we do.
Thank you.
So it sounds really, really in depth to get certified for safe quality food, similar to GAP, where you have that audit, they're walking through looking for everything. But do you know of a similar program, Nolan, where you have one of those mock audits or walkthroughs beforehand to help you get ready? Does that exist for SQF? Is it something you've used?
Well, we've used mock audits before in the past, and what we've done, we use ZEP, our chemical company is ZEP Chemical Company, and one of their guys will come in here and he'll walk the facility, and he's doing basically a mock audit, and the physical part of it and the chemical part of it, he can relay back to me, and he can let us see the things that we may have overlooked, or he's seeing, like James said, a new pair of eyes, a new set of eyes, looking at different things that we see on a daily basis. So we've done mock audits before in the past, and they have helped tremendously, and they can only make you get better.
Yeah. So is that just a friendly partnership, or is something that is ZEP ZEP Chemical Company does on a regular basis?
Well, ZEP Chemical Company has been our chemical company now for about 20 years, and I mean, we've created a good working relationship with these guys, and they know how important it is, what we do on a daily basis. They know how important it is. They know how important it is in preparation for the audit, because a lot of the sanitation part of it is dealing with their chemicals. So all the titration levels have to be checked. All the ppms have to be checked. All these different things that come into play need to be checked. And they stand behind their product just like we do behind ours. And they also have a good insight on each and every one of the chemicals they sell, and what they do and how they clean, and all those things they see really help us.
Great. All right. Thank you guys so much for helping us learn all about these different certifications. But the important thing that stood out to me is that this isn't a blind test for any of these audits that you go through. There's a checklist you can look at beforehand. You can prepare yourself with mock audits and different trainings you can go to so that you know what they're looking for when they come there. It's not just crossing your fingers and hope that you got everything right. There's a lot of prep before it. But food safety certifications, we know, are so important, especially right now during COVID, as we're becoming more aware of, how many people are touching our food, and how are they growing it, and how are they handling it. So I just want to thank all of you guys for taking all of these steps to make sure that our food system is full of fresh, safe, healthy food. For joining us today, I really appreciate you spending your time and teaching us more about these food safety certifications and giving us y'all's experience on how it went. This information is just completely invaluable to farmers who are looking to get started or trying to expand to sell to different marketplaces, to figure out how these certifications can affect them, and what steps they should take to get started. Nolan, I have one more question I forgot to ask you. If somebody wants to start selling to Kevin Guidry Produce and they think they meet these certifications, who should they call? How should they get in touch with y'all?
They can contact Kevin Guidry Produce directly at 337-269-4726 and ask for Kevin Guidry himself, or one of his sons, Jonah Guidry, or Chad Guidry, and they'll be glad to speak to them and see what they can do to help.
Great. Thank you so much.